So this analysis, of course, it's not a very simple thing. It is, using applied mechanics, it is using material science, okay, and also applied mathematics, which are being used for the structure analysis, okay. So this is also quite a interdisciplinary kind of thing, okay. And if we all, try to just, look back into history and everything, structural design and analysis is a very old art, okay. So human beings, since early civilizations, if we look at structures like this, I think we can all understand that this is not something new that has come only with computers now, okay. So human civilizations have known this art for a long time. We have such, monuments that are standing, which are, witness of the marvel, of the engineering marvel, of the workmanship marvel, which humans have. Okay, so this is an example of the pyramids, which was, constructed by Egyptians in 2000 BC. Okay, there are other early civilizations who have made, great buildings, great craftsmen. Okay, so examples are all in front of these buildings. For time, we know, as far as we can think of, these buildings have stood the test of the time. They're still standing there. Okay, so these monuments, they tell us what kind of, feats human beings have accomplished in terms of analysis, design, and construction of large structures. Okay, and even today we see such marvels coming around us. You talk of houses, bridges, flyovers, high-rise buildings, spacious shopping malls. So even today engineering is doing wonders. Okay, so we see such beautiful things. These are all bridges that we see. Okay, so I have like a personal liking for bridges somehow, because that's how I started my career. So, I'm always fascinated by bridges. That's why I chose that as the first career option. So definitely, this is something we can always, be proud of as civil engineers, the type of marvels we are creating. Okay. So as we also, we have to understand now these days, nothing is segregated into boxes. You cannot say that this is civil, this is electrical, this is mechanical. Okay, what civil is doing, electrical has no concern, mechanical. So everything is interdisciplinary, and infrastructure is, of course, we all know, a multidisciplinary task. We have civil engineers involved, we have electrical, instrumentation, mechanical engineers, architects. You talk of things, so many types of people are involved, so much type of specialties are involved. Okay, and in terms of structural systems also, which you all might be remembering, which we have been doing earlier and which we are teaching our students also, there are so many old types of structural systems which were used, arch, walls, trusses, the free forms, domes, they're still very prevalent. Then frame structures, the most common one which we're using these days, bearing walls, shells, tensile structures, all these kind of things. Okay, so when we talk of geometry, structure, and architecture, the first point is the feasibility. Is it like feasible to do it? And then we look at the functionality. What will be the space used for? So accordingly, we have to go for design. The kind of columns, beams, and all we are doing. What kind of space we are designing? Okay. Then comes the technology, which is the engineering of building. And there, if you see, the options are endless. Okay. And another aspect which we must look at these days is sustainability, which is actually the need of time, which has become so important because our human actions, they are becoming such that we are just relentlessly, we have the way we have behaved in the past, we have relentlessly just used the resources of the earth, considering like we are the only ones on this earth. Although I know it is something, the food for thought, that we are just one of the many types of species which are on the earth. So, sustainability has become so important. Otherwise, if you look at all the old, vernacular architecture and all, those times also buildings used to be there. But at that time, they were all intricately, had a fabric which was interacting with the nature. Okay, if you look at wherever you all are from, whichever state you are from, if you just try to think, the vernacular architecture, the old types of houses that were there, let's not talk of the modern, concrete jungle buildings and all. Okay, so even, I talk of mountain regions like J&K, Ladakh. I talk of, coastal region, Maharashtra and all. I come to Kerala and all. I go to Northeast. I come to Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh. According to the weather, if you see, all buildings, they used to be different. They are built like that. Because they were actually interacting with the nature. So they were behaving like the climate was, and people used to be comfortable there. You talk of Hawa Mahal in Jaipur. given there's so much of dusty, winds and air, still that building is a comfortable one, the way it was built. And today what we see the same type of buildings in all over the country, be it any type of weather, be it a weather of Delhi, which is hot, dry and hot, be it a building in Chennai where we are looking at some humid climate. So that is the reason what we are doing is we are just, building up, coming up with, all these buildings which are becoming a burden on the earth. We have to think of sustainability wherein the building is interacting with the nature, going with the climate, and, not causing much harm. Okay. Then, of course, innovation is always there when we talk of any building, design, shape, construction. There are so many things that we can do. I just showed you some pictures of bridges. There are many number of examples where you can say, you can make something and you're making up something new. You can make it like boring, which nobody will notice, or you can make something new and nice, which everyone will notice, and it is also fulfilling its purpose. Okay. Another very important aspects are, when we're doing structural design, we're going for some building, many times, mistakes are generated. Sometimes we are not, very clear conceptually what we are actually looking for. There is lack of visualization. You need to visualize what kind of thing you want to know. What you see on the right, I think you all will understand why I have shown this picture, what is happening here. Okay? So visualization, clarity of the engineer who's designing it is very important. Okay? Modeling is very important. We all becoming slaves of softwares now. Okay. So it is like we don't try to understand what is happening inside the software. So that is the basic knowledge which I think we must motivate our students, that they need to understand the basics so that they understand how the things go, not just be dumb users who are just putting in numbers input and they're just getting some outputs, and without even thinking how this answer has come, it is being just used. So that is very important, modeling. Okay, design concept. And of course, when we talk of civil engineering, the ultimate language is drawing. Drawing is our ultimate language, which a designer is giving to the contractor, which the contractor is, putting it on the field. So drawing, of course, this is also one area where our civil engineering students, they need to be very proficient. They should know how to make drawings, how to read drawings. So all of these are areas which, we must not forget, given our proud, our proud profession of civil engineering. Okay. So conceptual clarity, I'm talking of, type of structure, what is required. Okay. What kind of material will be good here? What kind of grade of concrete will be good? Is the soil investigation available or not? This is one aspect many people try to ignore. Although this is one of the most important steps, unless you have the geotech report, you shouldn't go for any design. This is very, very important. Okay. You should know which code has to be followed. All kinds of loads need to be identified, Then we have to decide on the method of analysis. You want to go for fully elastic, elastoplastic, or go for plastic analysis, So these kind of things, the engineer should know what will go well. India has moved to limit state design, but still there are many places where working stress is still working. If you just think, many times you're still going for working stress method because, there is a consideration where, cracking and all is very important. So they prefer to go for working stress. So that is a call which has to be made. So conceptual clarity has to be there. Okay. Plastic analysis is when, you're going into the full limit of the concrete. You're not just restricting to the elastic, because elastic is just a very small portion of what concrete strength it can provide. Okay. Then types of claddings, they're very important. Construction aspects like ground clearances should be there. Method of construction, the sequence, they're all very important. They have to be thought of before. And rather than, everyone is now on the site with the machinery, the material is there now, but we cannot move forward because nobody looked into this ground clearance, the utilities and all those kind of things. So these things have to be cleared earlier. Okay. Then visualization is, you must be able to visualize the entire geometry of the structure, like lifts, stairs, openings, how will they have? So, it's kind of like a judgment to understand that, okay, have a whole view, what will be done. Have that visualization, what kind of connections you want to give, what will be the critical load condition, deformation, the types of foundations. Okay. Then, of course, some underground structures, machine foundations, all these kind of things, they of course require some special considerations also. Okay. In analysis modeling, I've already spoken a lot about it. Okay. And one thing I would definitely like to stress here, based on my experience, as a design engineer. And we used to when I started my first career as a design engineer, we used to have very active discussions with the client There used to be regular meetings, to understand where everyone is, all kind of, as the engineers that I told you are involved in project, everyone used to meet once a month or something. And even when the project, as a design engineer, I've submitted my design drawings. When it is going to the contractor, still used to come back to us with a lot of things that, okay, what happened today? The pile that you had mentioned, the way when we casted it, there is a little batter in the pile in 1:12. Should we go ahead? We don't want to dismantle it. We don't want to, break it. I've already put money in it. Please tell me, can I go ahead or not? The pile cap that I cast today, it is, a little short on one side and little long on one side. Can I still go ahead? A lot of things still come, and still again, then you're, running the analysis again to see with this new geometry, will the things work or not? How much changes will be required? So it is a constant, process that has to be met. And I would also stress on aesthetics. Okay, so aesthetics, I have already said also. I again and again stress aesthetics are very important. A good looking building, a good looking bridge can even fetch internal revenue for the government. Via tourism. We all know Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. It was built as a bridge only, but they built it in such a beautiful way. It is fetching tourism now. So the government is earning money there. So why not? What is the problem with that? Okay, so we should think of those kind of things. If we are making something, let's make good. And of course, we have to see that it should be viable for construction also. Especially very important. The ease and speed of construction when we're talking of big bridges and all. So these things have to be seen. You have to move when you're talking of such high-rise structure, even buildings and all. You have to mobilize cranes and all those things. You're going for precast, then you are, bringing members from the casting yard to the site and all those. So you have to see everything. Is it viable? Would you be able to do that? All these aspects. It's not just about doing a design and just giving it to the contractor. No, you have to see whether it is viable construction-wise or not. And of course, always try to use local material and labor skills. Okay. Then of course, with design, there should be all these understanding of various things. I will not go into detail of this. The loads have to be understood. Codes are there for us. We must know, clearly know which kind of loads are to be considered for this particular building. And then post-analysis checks are very important. As I said, we should not become, a dummy, just looking at 1,000 pages of output of a software. Okay, we should understand where these numbers are coming from. What do these numbers mean? This is one very important aspect, which we see in today's students. They don't understand the basics, and that is definitely we all would agree with this. The basics is what will always help us. No matter what technology comes from, software or anything. Softwares are always built with the base of these basics of civil engineering also. So if you know the basics, you can learn any new software. But if you're learning a software without understanding what is happening behind it, then you will be good for that software only, and plus with no understanding. So we must motivate our students to, build these foundation years as civil engineers when they're doing their BTech diploma, that they should focus on understanding the concepts. That is very important. Okay. Then, understanding the members, which is a tension member, which is pure compression, bending, all those kind of things should be there. Okay. Because drawing is the ultimate, as I said. Children should know, civil engineers who are going in, after completing their degrees, when they're looking for a job, they should have understanding what are BOQs, what is the, steel detail, how the drawings are made, the kind of numbering and all that is given, those kind of things should be known. Okay, so I'll draw your attention to this slide. This is what I feel, civil engineering these are some problems which we face. Every day you might have seen around yourself also. People are complaining, ये कैसी building बनाई है, leakage हो रही है, corrosion है, इतना sag है, plaster peel हो रहा है. Then there are differential settlements. This is the word we hear, कैसी building बनाई है. So the the owners of it, I would say the blame is on the civil engineer only, I would say. Okay, so if we have concept clarity, construction clarity, design clarity, these kind of things should not arise. Okay, so these are the kind of problems which usually the structures are facing. Of course, and when I talk of during an event damage, these are beyond our control. That is something different. But still, again, as we are designing our structures, giving some factor of safety and understanding that, okay, in an event of maximum earthquake, considered earthquake, as you see 1893, there is basic considered earthquake, maximum consider earthquake. That's how the code is. Code is not saying that agar ek earthquake 9 factor आया scale का, the building will not even have a single crack. That is not what we are designing for. That will be very uneconomical, because the likelihood of such an event happening is 1 in 100 years or something. So that building might not be used for 100 years, and if I start designing for that, I'm just making it uneconomical. So those kind of things are there. So we have to understand these kind of things. Okay. Very important is to understand the requirement of the owner. That is, where the client, the owner who is spending money for this building. That's why, when we're talking of good infrastructure development, a good, infrastructure development company, they will definitely have constant liaising with the owner, what they are requiring. And the owner is told from time to time what is happening, what kind of designs have been approved and everything. Okay. So we need, the requirement of the owner is, he wants to know, will there be a guaranteed performance of the structure? How much damage will take place? Where it will take place? What is the downtime estimated cost? Okay. So engineers have to be more accountable, more efficient, and more specific these days. Okay. So of course, there are so many tools. They have been updated from time to time, from hand designs. We are now going to, updated design. There was a time when I did my BTech in 2001 to 2005, we did all designs by hand, and I'm so thankful to my teachers who taught us those design, that today I am confident that I know what is happening in RCC. I know what is happening in steel design. That time, Stat Pro and all, they were picking up. Now, if we talk of today's student, they want to straight away start doing Stat Pro. They would straight away want to doing ETABS and FEM without even understanding what happens inside. So, of course, tools are there from time to time. As I say, tools are there to serve us. We are not there to become slaves of these softwares. You have to understand what is happening. Okay. So there are so many advances which has happened in design philosophies. We started from working stress, ultimate, we are limit state, and now we are going to another theory, which is the performance-based. Europe and all, they have already switched to that kind of design. I'll show you that also. Design codes have advanced so much, analysis methods, structural systems, the softwares, you see softwares, who can do beautiful things for you only if you understand what it's doing, I would say. If you know what is happening, softwares can be a very good aid to save your time. Okay. Then concrete technology has moved so many strides up. We're not just talking of the, normal concrete now. There are so many things I will show you. Materials, aesthetics, planning wise, so many things are there now. People are, putting now thought into planning also. That is also required, even government, you see so many infrastructure planning projects. There are PPP, they're talking of partnerships and all those private public partnerships, all those kind. That is how you're seeing so much of infrastructure. Bade jo flyovers are coming up, big highways that are coming up, the toll roads and all. How is it happening? Private companies putting in money, the government giving it to them. Okay, you develop it, run it for some time, then you give us back. The owners is always the government. So these kind of models are also there. Even construction methods, we have seen so many things have changed. Ajkal we have gone somewhere else. We are talking of construction 4.0 now. Okay, so I will show you what is that. Okay, so of course, another 4 years or something, we are set to be the 4th largest infrastructure project market. Okay. So we have to, of course, make our technical workforce, exposed to this latest emerging technologies. And of course, but I would say the basics always help. If your basics are correct, you can learn any new technology. Okay. So there are so many fast track techniques also. Okay. So a lot of things are coming out, a lot of imperatives. Government is giving boost to infrastructure development, because that will never stop. If a country has to progress, economy has to progress, infrastructure development can never stop. Okay. So there will never be a dearth for good civil engineers, I would say. People say civil engineering mein boom hai, recession hai. I would say I have seen the worst of times. We have seen the times when we graduated from our BTech in 2005. It was said that civil engineering to bilkul low par hai, mitti katta wale log hai, inka job mein to kuch paisa hi nahi hai. IT was at a boom at that time. I remember, IT people used to earn in, lakhs, and civil engineer ki thousands mein job hoti thi. Parents used to ask, wo to wahan chala gaya IT mein, tumhari salary to itni hai. These kind of things happen. But what I feel is, we shouldn't get demotivated. What I say is, there is never dearth for good civil engineer. If you're a good civil engineer, there will always be market demand for you. You're always there to come up with good structures. If you don't know your basics, you have just done your, degree aise kar liya bina kuch samjhe, then of course no good civil engineering company will take you. We interact with so many companies. What they're saying is the students are not ready for the industry. They don't know the basics. We ask them simple questions about water cement ratio. We ask them simple questions about concrete design or mixed design. I think they don't know anything. We ask them simple bending moment diagram, shape force. So the idea when you say there is recession, the recession is not this wise. Infrastructure development never stops, and good civil engineers are always required. Whether we talk of design, whether we talk of quality checks, जो होते quality control वाले engineers होते site पे, we talk of design engineers, planning engineers, there is never dearth for these people. Those people are always required if you are good at your field. So I would always say we must motivate our students to keep their basics strong. Okay, so I'll just skip these philosophies. Okay. So of course these the earlier philosophies, they were these working stress and all. They were all more of they concentrated on the how the performance will be, assuming that. So they were all prescriptive, or they used to prescribe that is how it should be there. Okay. So a building is designed today to conform to prescriptive criteria. Okay, in the codes. Okay. So they regulate what will be the acceptable materials, what will be the strengths, what will be the systems, structural systems, stiffness and all. Okay, so we are trying to say with this prescriptive approach, we are trying to make buildings capable of providing some satisfactory levels of performance. Okay, so now question is, how much satisfactory is it? That is another question which is asked. So that is where, as I mentioned to you, these days people are going for this performance-based design. Euro codes, they have already adopted it, and in India also this is picking up a lot, and I think in some years to come even our codes, they'll be updated for this performance-based design. Okay, so this is a little different from the prescriptive approach of limit state working stress and all. Okay, we are what is done here is assessing the consequences of an extreme event, okay, from a given design rather than compliance only with the prescriptive criteria. Okay, so this is a process that will consider the way a building is likely to perform under a given event, okay, as its design will reach the predefined stages. So given an event, how likely is it to behave like that? Okay, so basically what is done is some performance objectives or indices are basically developed. So consequential losses are defined, that in this criteria this kind of losses can occur maximum. Okay, so that's how they are designing the building. Okay, so I will not go into much details. If you're interested in this, you must look more into it. So basically how it goes is, you select the performance objectives, you develop some preliminary design, then performance capability is checked. Does it meet the objectives? If yes, okay. If no, then you have to design your objective. So objective will be like the building how it should behave in case this kind of event happens. Okay, so these kind of things will be there. Okay, so New Zealand Eurocode, as I say, they have upgraded to this. So you can read these codes to get an idea of this design. Okay, so this is showing how the design is done. Okay. So as I said, there are some performance levels, the indices that are said, one is immediate occupancy. So in case a damage happens, the damage is to the tune that even after the damage, immediate occupancy is okay, that can be done. Then is life safety, it is such that the damage will be such that, property ka jo loss hoga, that is fine, but life safety will be there. Then the third one is collapse prevention. We're not letting the building collapse, okay, because if that is something which is never allowed. Okay, so these kind of things are done, and that is where we are going for the performance versus displacement versus intensity. That is called a pushover curve. You might have heard a lot about it these days. It is becoming the new trend. Okay, so these kind of things, like here a performance point has been selected between these two levels. Okay, this is the performance point. Okay, so that is how this design proceeds. Okay, so I just skip this. Okay, so pushover analysis, which is done here, is a non-linear static analysis. Okay, so the constant gravity loads and monotonically increasing horizontal loads are applied here. Okay, that is how it is done. Okay, now there are other trends. If I talk of analysis, we are looking at, when we're looking at slabs and arches and all, so elastic analysis of plates is something which is picking up, that is there. Okay, yield line analysis also is becoming more and more famous. Okay, so more and more prominent. Okay, so we are looking into that. Softwares, there are so many. Okay, FEM is there, so many softwares are there. I always say, like, Even Excel is a very good tool for design. We have actually done full bridge designs also with Excel. So Excel also is a beautiful tool if you have the understanding of it. A lot of things can be done with Excel also. With Excel also you can do a lot of things if you have an understanding of macros and everything. So even with VB and all, so you can do a lot of things with Excel also. So that can also always be explored. Okay. So of course there are other things, and even CAD is very important. As we said, because drawing is our ultimate language. So CAD is very important. So in India, AutoCAD is used. MicroStation is also very prevalent in US side. They use more of MicroStation. In India, AutoCAD is used more. So both have their, both are good ones. So of course, and that is also required. Okay. Infrastructure planning, as I said, these days that is also very important, because we are understanding that, different type of engineers, they have to interact throughout the life. Throughout when the project is being right from its inception, feasibility to planning, design, construction. So, with this infrastructure planning like BIM, which is the building information modeling, this is actually, virtually everyone is kind of able to see what is happening in the building. Like somebody does, say an architect has made the design, so that he will upload that on the BIM. Okay, so all the structural engineer, mechanical, electrical, they'll be able to see, okay, this is the one. They can start working on there. So someone does something, they can update it. So real time, everyone is able to see everything. So many times you're not even required to actually go on the site, So even remotely people are able to manage. So that is BIM, and this is really a lot in demand now. There are so many, good institutes which are doing, giving special diploma degrees for this BIM. Okay. So many people are going for that after their civil engineering degree. I know many students of mine, they're also doing this. So BIM is especially very important. In India also it has picked up a lot. So Bentley is there, S3 and all, they are there. And I think most of them, they are very user friendly, and they are open for academic purpose. They are giving at very, very easily also. So you all can try that also. So definitely our students, we need to, along with basics, we have to expose them to all these latest technologies if we have to make them industry ready. Okay. Even, for water, sewerage, lighting and all, everything these days, there are softwares, so the work can be made easy, no doubt. Okay. So that's what I have told you already about BIM. Okay. Aesthetics, as I said, are very important, you can do a lot of things with it. Okay. With alternative materials, so many things are coming up. Even government is doing a lot of things. In 2020 only, government has given these guidelines that even IRC has now put in the guidelines that cement treated base, sub base, waste plastic, geosynthetics, all these kind of things, they can be used. So, even government is understanding that alternative materials are required now. Okay. So concrete technology, since we're talking specifically about RCC, materials, the use of recycle and waste material in concrete is picking up, mixed proportioning, mechanical properties, durability is very important, concrete test, construction control, all these things are happening. Okay. When I talk of a concrete structure, what are the challenges? As we said, first is the design requirement, then designing the concrete. Then during concrete, there are so many challenges to maintain the temperature, have the placement as planned, finishing and curing should be done. Then post concrete also, there are, things that we have to be careful of, de-shuttering, chipping, grinding, all those kind of things are there. Okay. And for concrete, if you see, there are so many options that are available now. This is in a list which I had just put in, Wikipedia, and this is the kind of list I found. And I was so surprised to see that, these many kinds of concretes are so much available, which are being used readily. Okay, so there are so many things to see. People are doing research. Many are claiming that we're trying to clean air with our concrete. Although concrete, in few years back, it got quite a bad name that when we do cement production, it is almost 1 ton of cement means 1 ton of carbon dioxide we are emitting into the atmosphere. So it's not environment friendly. So there are so many things after that which have developed so to offset these kind of things. So people are doing this Stanford professor. He's trying to make cement that produces no carbon dioxide. Okay, so these kind of things are there. Okay, smart concrete these days we have, wherein we are doing carbon fiber, almost 0.2 to 0.5%. So it is able to sense strains and stresses. Okay, and good mechanical properties also. There is smog eating concrete people have developed. Okay, they put titanium oxide in it, so photocatalytic reaction with the UV light, so it accelerates the natural process and it decomposes the pollutants of the clean air, and to have a clean air. Okay, so even bacteria, dirt, they do not accumulate on the surface, and it can be easily removed with water or rain. Okay, so that's how it looks white and clean. Okay, this is called smog eating concrete. Then RPC is another one of the high performance concretes, reactive powder concrete. Okay, very high, ultra high strength, high ductility. Okay, and the microstructure is optimized so that there is precise gradation, so that you have good maximum density. Okay, we are using highly refined silica fume also. Okay, so very widely used, definitely for special projects. Translucent concrete also, I want to show you the picture first. This is translucent concrete. If you see, this kind of light is also getting emitted through it. Okay, so basically what they're talking of, embedding optical fibers inside it. Okay, so it can be made good looking also. Okay. So even there are so many advances in chemical admixtures these days with the shortage of water. Many people are now also moving towards having the curing wherein water is not at all required. They're using admixtures for curing and all. Other type of admixtures are there as you require, like rapid setting and all those kind of things, water reducing admixtures and all those kind of things are there. So there are a lot of things which are available in the market. If you go 4-stroke, Sika and all, they have given a lot of options for that. Okay, recycled materials are being used. Granulated blast furnace slag is there. Fly ash is very common now these days. It's good to see with the new infrastructure project, people are going for fly ash bricks now. So a lot of other materials also people are trying to use them here. Okay, so that cement, it's the cement component of the concrete that can be reduced, or we can even reduce the fine and coarse aggregates, because those are also natural materials. We are falling short of those materials also. Okay, so that is very important. Gradation is very important. That is where we can play around and get a good high strength or a good other performance criteria also. Okay. Durability is of course very important these days. RCPT test has become very kind of important. People are going for it, rapid chloride permeability test, to see how durable the concrete will be. So if we are making a structure, we like it to be durable, to be long serving and everything. Okay. So even test procedures, there are so many things. NDT these days can do a lot of things for you without having any field lab tests or anything. So a lot of things are happening there also. Okay, in construction control also, we are seeing so many things. I will show you here all in consequent slides also what is new with respect to construction control. Okay, so many things are happening. Then we come to high performance concrete, which I think today's engineer must know this term. Okay, high performance concrete is something wherein we are trying to have a concrete which has a specific criteria, wherein it is giving some good performance criteria. Maybe the criteria is the placement and compaction without segregation. The criteria may be early age strength. It may be enhanced mechanical properties or volume stability or durability, like low permeability, abrasion, fire resistance. Okay, so these kind of, like if you are talking of very cold regions, very cold countries like Russia and Canada and all, so there freezing and thawing is a big issue. So maybe they want their concrete to behave so that it doesn't get damaged with that kind of weather. So they can the high performance concrete can solve that problem. So particular concrete is developed for having a particular given property. Okay, so generally we might talk of high strength, good durability, good workability. Is being used a lot these days. Okay, in the basic structures, in even the important structures, in repair materials. Okay, is being highly used. Okay, of course there are advantages of it. First of all, that you're trying to achieve one particular aim for that particular concrete that you're trying to achieve. You can have a superior qualities of it. Okay, reduction in structural steel can be done. Okay, high performance concrete, it can reduce the amount of reinforcement also. Okay, with ductility, energy absorption in seismic areas or where winds are an issue. So these kind of things can give you great flexibility also. Okay, another concrete which is very famous, which is very popular these days, I say, is self-compacting concrete, the SCC. The flowing concrete, as we call. So it is very popular these days. It is basically because it flows just like honey, and it poses a smooth level surface after placing. Okay, so it has improvements in strength, density, durability, volume stability, abrasion resistance. So this is also being widely used these days. Okay. People are also going these days for lightweight aggregate concrete. Okay, so mostly earlier we used to use volcanic origin, aggregates. Okay, so waste like palm oil industry, those kind of things can also be included as aggregates. So the thermal treatment, of course, is required. So people are going for this lightweight aggregate concrete also. Okay. So adequate strength, thermal insulation you can achieve with this. Okay. This is also actually from Wikipedia. So just a comparison, the various kind of concretes that we talked of. And there are many more, as I said, self-compacting, reactive powder, chemically bonded, ceramics, super plasticized. As I said, plasticizers are being used, mixtures, super plasticizers are being used. So how, cost-wise, life cycle cost, all those things, how it is working out. Okay. Decorative concrete is also, gaining popularity. With few coloring agents, white cement and all, and it mixtures, you can have beautiful landscapes and structures. You can go for stamped concrete also with the colors. So it can look beautiful. If you also can see the pictures, they are explaining everything. Okay. Many now in construction material otherwise also, like for water replacement, as I said, gels are there and mixtures are there, and the reinforcement is being replaced by carbon fiber type reinforcement or post tensioning reinforcement. Okay. I think this I've already shown you. Okay. Precast industry is picking up a lot, because when you have, precast is a good option when you're talking of, something which has to be duplicated many times. So you can set up a yard close by, and precast can be very economical. So it has a lot of, options, lot of applications. It's time saving, economical also, and quality is there because, it is made in very controlled conditions and then brought to site, as against a concrete wherein you are completely relying on the workmanship of the person who's casting the concrete at that time. So that thing is there. So it is being used for parking garages, walls, for all these CIPs also, castings, all these things. Even in pre-stressed open space trusses, all these things, the precast has a lot of options. This is one place where I came across recently. Someone was discussing about this asphalt rubber. That is being used for pavement. Okay, so it's a blend of asphalt, cement, bitumen with reclaimed tire rubber and additives, so that about 15% by weight. So they are being used in the horse asphalt cement. Okay, so ASTM is there, and it is also giving beautiful results. So people are going for alternative materials now. So what they observed was smooth ride, less cracking, less maintenance, more durable loads. Okay, skid resistance, rut resistance, that is better. Okay. This is something I read this news about 1 or 2 days before. I thought of including it here. Now, humans, they're talking of building houses on Mars now, so they are trying to take up material because, taking material from Earth will cost a lot to them. So scientists are looking into options to have materials which can be, harnessed, which can be created on the Mars itself. So they have already had some breakthrough. They are making some concrete for building houses on the Mars. Okay, so UK scientists have done this. Okay, so this is something that they have done, and they say they are using space dust, the blood, sweat, and tears of the astronauts. So because the human blood protein, when it is combined with urea, which is from the sweat or urine or tears, they can glue together to simulate Martian soil to make a material with 300% more strength than ordinary concrete. That's what they're saying. Now, I'm not debating on this part that they're using the blood and everything. I'm just trying to show here the technology part here. Okay, so people are looking into a lot of options there. Okay, so precast, as I've already said, it's an emerging trend. Old times. This is also something which I found some time back. So I just thought of including this. So this is showing, how it was invented. So this is the precast pipe, in Canada was the first place where it was invented in 1920. Okay, so the person who made it, claimed that it can carry a load of this much, 21,000 kgs. Okay, so but at that time, they were not testing mechanisms as we have these days. We have pi load tests and all we have now, but that time they couldn't do it. Okay, so to give the confidence, to show that yes, it is working, the inventor actually sat inside the pipe, okay, to show the confidence that yes, my design is reliable. Okay. So in precast, like as I said, the quality control is there, but of course there has to be good knowledge of the connections, because connections are very important here. Basically, you're taking beams and columns already cast into the site, and then they are supposedly put together. So connections are very, very important. Okay, so that is one thing which has to be taken care of, because this will more be related to design for progressive collapse. Okay, diaphragm action in floors, joints and connections. Okay, so detailing is very important. Okay. So these are all the things I've already told you. Safety is of course there. Okay, so you can produce on the ground level, and you are just placing it at high levels. People don't have to, labor doesn't have to work at high levels. So that safety aspect is there. Okay, then lower production cost than site cast, but again, as I said, it will be more viable when you have the quantity is more. Okay, fire and chemical resistance, low maintenance efficiency, because quality control is there. So there are a lot of applications for it. Top of it, so many things are there. I'm just showing you. Okay, bunkers, silos, everything, septic tanks, pipes. Okay, so they're using it everywhere, even on panels, the pavements, they're using it, decks, all those things, parks, stones. So they're using precast in a lot of places. Noise control, in many countries this is very important. So along the highway they have these kind of noise control barriers, so that people living along the highway, they don't have to face all these noises from the highways. Okay, so acoustics are very important, and precast is a good option there. Some example, even in soil retention. Okay, panels and all. Okay, formwork is also very intrinsic part when we talk of concreting, concrete structures. So formwork also, there are so many things which have gone up. So even there are so many options. We are talking of slip forming these days, wherein vertically you can go very fast. So you use a formwork casted, and then you just slip it up. So next for the casting can be done, slip it up. So similarly, you can go horizontally also long distances like this. Okay, so even load bearing walls, there are a lot of things which have happened here also. Tilt up techniques and all. So they've nearly lifted 100 feet. Okay, so there are a lot of things which are happening here. Okay. Then reinforcement, as we said, post tensioning is very good method. Okay, external post tensioning is also done. Internal post tensioning is also done. Okay, and we are going for reinforcement carpets also these days. Okay, so that reduces the shipping and erection cost. Okay, so galvanized and stainless clad rebar, they are less expensive. They are corrosion resistance also. Okay, there is also micro composite steel, which is high strength corrosion resistance. Okay, so these kind of things are also coming. This is showing that concrete mat which I was talking of. This is the reinforcement mat. Okay, then for corrosion also, especially coastal regions, this is one of the biggest thing consideration for design. Okay, so there are cracks, there is alkalinity, all this kind of things are there. So for that also, there are a lot of things. Even alternative reinforcements are coming up. We can go for FRP, fiber reinforced polymer things, epoxy, stainless steel, galvanized ECR, Z bars. Okay, concrete quality, of course, the covers, the corrosion inhibiting mixtures can be put. Okay, prefabricated FRP beam can be used. Okay. So there are rebars which are made of fibers which are embedded in the polymeric resin. Okay, so basically these kind of things are also there, what you can see here. Okay, and there are fiber types. You can use glass, carbon, aramid, basalt. Okay, then resin, if you go for thermoset types, there is vinyl ester, there is polyester, there is epoxy. Okay, so vinyl ester is made many times preferred for RCC. Their glass fiber is preferred. Okay, so they have advantages, corrosion resistance, high strength, all those kind of things are there. Okay, sometimes the idea disadvantage may be high cost or something, but then again, if you're talking about specialized structures, these kind of solutions are always welcome. Okay, then FRP reinforcing, as I said, That is also being used. And of course, there are a lot of things, not only as reinforcement, FRP as big reinforcement bars, but also we can put, discrete small fibers also in the concrete. So they also serve as, they are made a part of the concrete mix. So that is also, there are also viable options. So that is called FRC, fiber reinforced concrete. So their fiber type, volume ratio, aspect ratio, those things become important, okay? I'd like to discuss something on innovative structures. We are coming up with so many innovative structures, new design concepts, new materials, new technologies, superior performance. Okay, a recent marvel is the Statue of Unity. So it is definitely a structural engineering marvel, I would say, construction marvel. Okay. So basically, this is one of the marvels we can talk of. A sleek statue, wind speed it can take up to 180 kilometers per hour. It is earthquake resistant up to 6.8, okay, and it is a green and sustainable design also, okay. So a lot of challenges, which went into it. You can see first they built up a concrete structure, then a steel clad around it, and then the bronze cladding happened outside it, okay. So, logistics also, as I said, you have to understand, not just make a design, you have to understand how will you mobilize your equipment there. What you see here, like to have something this tall, you need big cranes and all. So you have to see how will you move your crane on your, what you can see here, how will you move your crane around on your site, So that is also important. Many times you won't even get a very free site, it may be congested places, like you're building a flyover or something. It is already a busy area. So all these things have to be looked into, okay. There are technologies, people have used something like this also. What you see is the bubble deck technology, okay. So basically, they are using biaxial calling, hollow slab in which plastic balls, they serve the purpose of eliminating the concrete, which is just a dead load for them, okay. So basically, it is behaving like a solid slab, very biaxial, distributing the forces, okay. It has been demonstrated in one of the, university building in Toronto. So if you have interest, you can look into that. Okay. So it's even, they have reduced the weight, reduction in slab mass, so less material. They got even a green building certification for that. Okay. Integral bridges is also another trend. If you can understand, if you can, you'll appreciate what I'm showing in this picture, why it's an integral bridge. There are no bearings here, and bearings is one part of the bridges, which is, I would say the pain area, because as far as maintenance and all goes, these require constant maintenance, plus they are the most difficult to, replace or something like that. So integral bridges talks of something like that, eliminating these bearings. So substructure and superstructure are integrated into each other, okay. So they are architecturally pleasing also, okay. They have a superior structural behavior also, economy also, and they are durable also, okay. This is another thing I wanted to share with all of you. Another very nice arch bridge is coming up in India, okay, which is being claimed to be the world's highest railway bridge, okay, which is from Kashmir, okay. So this is on the bed of the river Chenab, okay. It's a 272-kilometer rail link project which is being constructed, okay. So basically, it is 35-meter higher than Eiffel Tower in Paris, okay. This Chenab arch bridge, okay. So another civil engineering marvel, I would say. It will be having, dual carriageway, 14-meter, 1.2 meter central verge, and design speed can be going up to 100 kilometers per hour, and 120-year lifespan is what they have designed and they'll be constructing. Okay, and it can take wind speed up to 266 kilometers up, and temperatures even -20 it can stand. Earthquakes up to 8 magnitude and high intensity blast it can stand. Okay. So they have used the BIM software here, as I had mentioned you. This is, I would say, the trend, I would say, the most recent trend that is there, okay? So I want to share this with you. Yeah, another thing I just came across yesterday, I was reading on Twitter. So I actually included this yesterday evening only. So this is, if you can see, it's a floating bridge. This is in China. So it's basically, this bridge is floating over this water body, and as the vehicle is passing, you can see it is creating this ripples of water here, if you can see. So it is something very beautiful, as I was saying. So you have made a bridge, but made a good tourist spot also, and it is looking aesthetically good, a different concept. Okay, so it's something very good. You can watch it on YouTube also. There are videos about it. So how a bridge is looking so beautiful, it's creating these ripples of waves, okay. Another, latest this I again inserted in the evening only. So yesterday I was reading on Twitter. UAE is exploring the idea of a 2,000-kilometer underwater rail tunnel, which they want to connect to Mumbai, so that for the trade purpose. So there will be ultra speed floating trains which will cover the distance in 2 hours. Okay, so they are looking at this underwater rail tunnel which will be held by floating pillars. So you can see where the technology is moving now. Okay, tall buildings, of course, this is required now with the given kind of urbanization and everything. The land is less, the population is more. So we are from low rise, we are going towards high rise, tall buildings. So a lot of things are there, of course, from the point of structural engineer, which is, because of height, wind or earthquake. So there will be secondary loads also which come into play. Okay. So tall buildings, of course, mankind is, of course, never, setting behind. They are always trying to go for the tallest building, as you see. So the latest what you see here is Burj Dubai. Okay. But I would like to share that, they are already planning another building which will be higher, almost 30 meters higher than this Burj Khalifa. So I had actually visited there, and there's already a model of it that they are already displaying there in one of the big malls. So we are, the technology is advancing. So we are coming up with new and new tall buildings, even residential office types. Okay, so things are there. Design aspects, of course, a lot of things are there. Strength, stability, serviceability, human comfort is to be there. Okay. There is a recent code also 160700 by IS. Okay, for this. Okay. So it can go for moment resisting frames or, core supported outrigger systems and all. Okay. So these are the structural systems which come into play for tall buildings. Okay. Then for exterior, you can go for these brace tubes or die grid systems, all these kind of things. I will not go into details. But of course, the issues, are always there. So main being, like when you're at higher floors, the pumping of concrete becomes a little issue. Then structural steel, you need to have dimensional accuracy, fabrication, protection from corrosion and fire because it's a tall building. Then utilities, you have to provide right till up, fire safety has to be there properly. Okay. Working at height is, of course, a safety issue for the workers. The impact injury and all, earthing of the equipments has to be done. So these are all issues which have to be taken care of during construction. Then vibration control is also required, we all understand, at higher heights, the winds become prominent. So we are into this issue that the building might become resonant, to the vibrations and all. So those things have to be taken care of. Okay. So there are many vibration control devices which are there, of course. So these kind of issues have to be tackled. Okay. Even glass facade design, people like to go for glass, but as I said, must look into the climate where you're locating the building, see if it is viable. And even if you're using glass, then there is high performance glass which can take care of the insulation and everything. Okay. And interference effect is another aspect. Basically the loading on the tall buildings can be influenced by the adjacent structures also which are in its vicinity. If you see, okay, a neighborhood building can also affect how your building will behave. So these kind of things have to be done. So wind tunnel studies and all become important here. Okay. So many times it is a discomfort for the pedestrians also because there is this kind of effect which happens, a tall building is there. So somewhere someone standing on the road here, they will experience this kind of turmoil, as you can see. Okay. So these kind of things have to be, even geometrically, you want to go for an efficient shape so that, it is kind of a streamlined shape wherein, loads are just going by. Okay. So these kind of things are very important, Okay. Effect of air pollution is also has to be seen at the top, it is quite a lot. Okay. Another one, people are going for pile raft combined foundations also these days. So raft and pile combined. So that is saving time also, and based on the building also that can be done. Okay. Another aspect, as I said, is the sustainability. So the idea is the citywide expansion should be consistent with urban growth, transparency, user participation, market orientation, capacity building, local empowerment. All those kind of things have to be done. Okay. So basically, if I talk of sustainable and smart infrastructure, so basically water, urban mobility, energy, waste, e-services, all these things should be there. Okay. So that is very important for sustainable design, material wise and everything. Okay, people are going for pervious concrete these days because hue and cry that with all the paved surfaces that we have created now, groundwater is depleting because natural percolation is not happening. So pervious concrete is there for that. Okay, so we have to minimize the material use, minimize production energy, minimize embodied energy. The life cycle assessment should be done, and maximum structural system reuse should be there. You know, make a building which can be reused also later. Okay, so of course the solution will be different. Okay, so life cycle performance must be seen. Don't just look at the initial cost. How much is the life cycle performance? That should be looked at. Okay, that is the cradle to grave approach. Okay, so there are so many materials which are there, as I already told you. Okay, so stormwater management, we are going for permeable and grid paver system, green roofs, rainwater catchments, all these kind of things can be done. Okay, design codes, they are going, as I said, this is 16700, latest code which has come for the structural safety of tall concrete buildings. Okay, now other advances, you know, there are so many advances which has happened, like 3D printing materials, BIM, and all those Clantic systems. So I'll just show you some of this. This is one example from our India only. One IIT Madras startup, they have built the first 3D printed house, and the construction cost was cut by almost 30% here. Okay, so this is a computerized 3-dimensional design file, and that's what they used, layer by layer. Okay, that's how they have gone for a 3D printed building. Another example of 3D printing. Okay, this is by L&T. Okay, so they have constructed this 700 square feet. Okay. 3D, this is in Kanchipuram facility. Okay, 3D bridges are being done. This is in Madrid. So Netherlands, they have done it already in 2016. So these ones in India, I think they came last year, I remember, 20 or 21. I remember. So these ones, like New Zealand, Netherlands, they are kind of pioneers in this area. Okay. Yeah, as I said, we are now moving towards construction 4.0, you know, wherein our construction is, you know, technology enabled, smart in all aspects. You know, we are talking of prefabricated and modular construction. We are talking of advanced building materials. I've shown you so many advanced building materials, smart concrete, fiber optic wala concrete, all those kind of things. Then there is 3D printing and additive manufacturing, which is there. You know, then autonomous construction, you know, remotely you can control all these machinery. Okay, then there is augmented reality, visualization is happening, I'll show you. Then there is big data, then there is wireless monitoring, there is cloud real-time collaboration. You know, as I said, in BIM you are doing, and nothing is being saved on physical hard drives. You know, everything is cloud related. Okay, cloud storage is there, then BIM is there. So that's what we're talking of construction 4.0 now. Okay, so IoT is big time. It is not IoT, cloud, artificial intelligence. They are not just restricted to computer science people. Civil engineering has a big application for it, and a big time. Okay, so IoT is Internet of Things. You know, you can use it for so many things. Fuel saving, security control, you know, environmental monitoring, building structural health monitoring, managing workers efficient. So, you know, these are some of the upcoming areas. I have interest in this. I myself, you know, conduct special STC every year once at least. I do for this part only, artificial intelligence and IoT. So there are a lot of applications there, teachers. Okay. So construction industry, of course, now we have to give, you know, challenge of speed of delivery, reducing carbon footprint. So this artificial intelligence, you know, it is not only just about the machines, robots. It's also about if you can develop algorithms which are saving time, which are saving money, which are saving any kind of you know, construction cost or material. So it has been used for everywhere, for project management, for design, analysis. So artificial intelligence is there. You know, you all have heard of techniques like artificial neural network, genetic algorithm, fuzzy logic, you know, all these kind of things, optimization techniques. So it is the applications are there in all the areas, if you can see. Okay, so as I said, algorithms are also there. So main areas, basically we are using reinforcement learning. Okay, so these are algorithms, trial and error, to do something in an efficient manner. So you can use it for planning, scheduling for construction projects. Then there are predictive applications. You're trying to forecast something, you know, it can be used for forecasting the project risk, test the viability and stability of solutions. Then machine learning is there. Okay, so you can, you know, train a machine. You can, the machine can learn, and it can, you know, do things for you. Simulations can be done. Then there is supervised learning for modularization and prefabrication. So you can do that. You can make a machine learn, and they can do all these prefabrication things for you. Then there is image recognition, drones, 3D imagery. These days we are using it. You don't have to be physically present on the site. A manager, through drones, through this image recognition, he can look after the workers also and see what is the progress on the site. Okay, so this is already there. Japan is kind of very ahead of it. They are already using robots on their sites. Okay, so many things are there, like autonomous truck loader or all these things. They can make simple wall for you. All those kind of things, they are being done. Yeah, you can see the example I've already included. Okay, welding. They are building these walls. They can move around material. This reinforcing they can do. They can wall building, demolition, laying of the pavement, that can be done. Okay. Now, what is virtual reality? This is also something which is very important for us civil engineers. Basically, it is not just about video games now or simulate. We can use it as simulations to train our worker also. Okay. So virtual reality is basically, it is not actually happening, but you feel that it is happening to you. So that is why it is called virtual. But it seems that it is reality. That is why it is called virtual reality. So you can visualize things, you can test different design options, okay, without having to, make physical models of it. A very powerful opportunity for design projects. You can see bridges, you can train your people that, okay, when they go for a tunnel construction, how things will look there. Okay, so we can use it for training our students also, to teach them, say, tunnel engineering, to show them how is the bridge construction happening. We can show them all through this. Okay, then another is augmented reality. A reality which is being augmented by something. You are putting something more into a reality. Okay, so basically, maybe there is a site with augmented reality. You can put up a building there and see how it looks. So it is like you're just looking into options and don't have to really make the building itself. So a lot of things are there. There is a Google Glass which is there. Augmented reality apps are there. You can just look into that. Okay, so it can give safer accessibility to the people also. You can see how these artificial intelligence machines, they are working. Advanced cameras, drones, lifts, they are all being used these days. Okay, so this was my last slide, but I would like to share, let me show if I can show you one video for a augmented reality. Just give me a minute. Are you able to hear the video?
Yes, ma'am.
Embraces technology innovation to address workforce challenges. Augmented reality solutions from SRI International have the potential to transform job site operations for construction inspectors by saving time, cutting costs, and improving safety with intuitive equipment and connected intelligence. Conventionally, the inspection process is done manually, often requiring more than one person, and can take a long time to document and circulate the information to others. SRI's computer-aided system can accurately track user location as they move around a large job site. With instant access to an intuitively searchable digitized database, an inspector is able to accurately align and compare what is being built against the building information model.
So what you can see here is like the model which has already been made in BIM, So it is already programmed into these special glasses which this construction worker is seeing. So now what he's doing at the actual site, the work is progressing, and he's just kind of superimposing that BIM model to see if it is happening as it was planned or not. Are the things being made as it was required or not? So this is augmented reality. So the reality which is already there, he's augmenting the plans on it. So this is an augmented reality. Okay. So even checking the dimensions
Manual measurement
here.
processes become automated and more accurate. Capturing and documenting data become less time-consuming. The inspector can snap photos on demand or add and retrieve virtual notes that stick to a location, which can be shared across multiple devices. Problem areas become easier to recognize, and serious concerns can be identified and shared instantly with those who can immediately respond, preempting major structural errors and costly build time. Information, including important inspection notes, design safety reports, and even contractor reviews, are stored and can be recalled for use in the planning of future projects. SRI's vision technology can change the landscape for construction inspection by providing efficiency and higher accuracy while saving time and money.
Okay, so I think that is all from my side.
Participants, any question from your side? Am I audible? Any question from the participants?
Hello.
Yes, sir. Ask the question.
Yes, as ma'am said, this artificial intelligence, it has been implemented in a lot many fields in civil engineering. Basically, I'm from transportation engineering. So, ma'am, is this very much applicable in the traffic simulation also? Can it be very helpful?
Yes, Amitji, actually, there is a lot of things being done in traffic also, like drones are being used for, traffic studies these days. They are using drones for traffic studies when you're coming up with a, highway or something planning. So traffic studies, as we all know, conventionally, we used to use that, PCU, passenger car units and all those kind of things. So drones are helping there. So those even traffic studies are being done, even monitoring of when you're doing actual construction. So that can be done, and with this augmented reality and all, so even simulations and all can be done. You can look into different options for these things. And virtual reality is there, wherein for planning, at a given site, you can actually, see how it will happen. So those kind of applications are definitely there. And, they are exploring, and I'm sure there are many more to come.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Surely. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Any other?
Madam, you have mentioned about the FRP bar.
Yes,
so
sir.
that FRP bar can be utilized in the structural elements, or and what are the limitations of that one?
So basically, FRP bars are definitely gaining a lot of popularity because of their the strength and everything that they have, the corrosion resistance, and plus it is an alternate material also. So definitely it is being used in the structures, specialized structures. It is being used, and disadvantages wise, cost may be one of the consideration. But otherwise it has very good, if you're talking of special structures, sometimes you need the solution, so cost may not be that big a consideration. So cost is one limitation which I can think of, but otherwise they are a very good application for a specific purpose if you're talking of, so that can be really looked into.
But how the ductility problem we can sort it out when we utilize in the structural element?
So basically, these FRP bars, if you're talking of, so these are basically fiber reinforced polymers. So ductility wise and all, they have very good properties. I would like to mention here that, in many of the retrofitting projects, when the columns and all, they are already, kind of, they have lost their cover, the reinforcements are what, they're all exposed and all. So these FRP is a very excellent material, which can increase the strength, which can increase the ductility with the concrete. So that is definitely, they have very good property. Ductility wise, they have good performance. Strength, ductility is a very good performance, and even corrosion wise, they are a very good option.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sir.
Any other question from the participants? So So before the end of this session, I would like to thank Hime Gupta ma'am for taking out time from his busy schedule and enlightening us with her valuable knowledge. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much. It was a wonderful experience for me interacting with the teachers. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you. I can leave the meeting now?
Yes, ma'am. You can leave now.
Okay. Thank you so much.